I was 4.5 years old when 9/11 happened, and I remember actually vividly seeing it on TV happen. So I remember like watching the news, and then my dad telling me like America just got attacked.
I was born in 1995, so I was 6. I think I remember just being in the living room and turning the TV on and standing there with my parents watching it. Kind of gut-wrenching feeling. My dad has always like talked about how great the US is. And so sitting there, being a little kid, like looking up at him, being like, wait a minute, what's going on? We're the greatest country in the world, right? Like, how is this happening? That was definitely that. I have a very distinct memory, lasting impression on me.
I was 6 years old when 9/11 happened. I was actually getting ready for school. My parents always had the news on in the mornings, and we'd kind of just make breakfast and get ready in the morning prior to going to school. And I just remember sitting on the couch and seeing the first plane hit the World Trade, the Trade Center.
I was in kindergarten when it happened. I was 6 years old. When you had asked me to do this interview, I'd actually messaged my parents because what I remember, I went to a small Catholic grade school. What I think I remember is at lunchtime, because we ate lunch in the gymnasium, and so they had the table set up on half of it. And on the stage, I think I remember there being a big TV with the news playing.
I was 4 years old, turning 5 in a few months. I just really remember my parents being quite concerned about it. My dad is an airline pilot, was in the military. So it was a little bit of a different experience just because, that could have been his plane, right?
Yeah, I knew I was going to be a Marine when 9/11 happened. I grew up around the Marine Corps, and I knew that I was going to join the Marine Corps. And I didn't know that we would still be in war when I joined, but I knew that I would go into the Marine Corps because of 9/11.
Obviously, we started the war in Iraq and Afghanistan in the early 2000s. So I grew up just throughout school, watching videos about Marine Corps, about the Marines in Ramadi and Fallujah, and seeing kind of Afghanistan and Iraq play out. My best friend and I, we decided to join the Marines together, and seeing what was unfolding in Iraq and Afghanistan, I wanted to help, and I wanted to go and help serve my country. And as I got older, I understood the attack on the United States and how important it was for people to stand up and go over there and help fight for, at that time, fight to defend our country.
We've obviously been involved in the Middle East for so long, and it's pretty much what most of us remember for all of our lives. You don't really know much else. I grew up in a military family, so my dad was an Army Reserve officer, but because there wasn't a lot going on, he never activated. My one grandfather was enlisted in the Marine Corps in World War II. My other grandfather went to the Naval Academy. And so it was kind of just something that you did. So I think that it definitely played a role. But I think just from a generational perspective, because it's kind of all that we knew, it was just fitting that that's what you did. You kind of just stepped up.
I was pretty young, so I can't say that I joined the military because of that day per se. However, I will say that was the first time that I've ever really experienced evil that wasn't in Hollywood or, watching TV. So this was the first time that my country has ever been attacked in my lifetime. So that was relatively significant for me now, because, fast forward 10 years from then, it's like, hey, I know this is out there, and I want to do everything I can do to make sure this doesn't happen again, and to protect my country that I love so much. I'm one of 12 kids and 9 boys, so I have 4 older brothers, and my grandpa was an admiral, an oceanography admiral. My uncle is a Navy captain. I had 2 uncles in the Navy as well. And then my dad had 12 kids. And so it was just like kind of, like the last straw. Not really, that's not a good way to put it, but he just always instilled in us just how lucky we were to be born in the US. Like, we could have randomly been born in any other country, but we were born in the US. And he has all sorts of different sayings about how lucky we were. So it always been kind of ingrained that we wanted to serve. There was never any expectation for us to serve, but that just
I think for me, it left a lasting impression that was like, okay, I'm gonna go serve my country. Like, this is obvious. I saw my uncles and grandpa, and then all four of my older brothers ahead of me. And so from as long as I remember, my goal was to go to Notre Dame, be an engineer, become a Navy pilot.
I remember like the years following 9/11, the United States was definitely a lot more joined together. It was like that massive terrorist attack that happened kind of brought together the United States. And now we look at the United States and it's completely divided.
I think an unfortunate thing is that it's been 20 years and people have almost started to forget. It's like sometimes they're not even showing the footage on TV, which I think is honestly tragic because people don't know that we were put in this situation where we were the most powerful country in the world, and it was a direct attack on this system of government that was founded. That 250 years ago, there was no country in the world that was governed by the consent of the people. And then in 170 years, we went from zero to the greatest country in the world, and that was a direct attack on the greatest country in the world. And so now people are kind of looking down on a lot of stuff we did, but really, there's never been a country in the history of the world that's been more powerful and done more good with that power than the U.S. And like people look at a lot of things in the U.S. and that are like problems, which we all know exist, and they think it's a bad country. But again, there's never been a country that's done more good for everyone in the whole world. So I think that honestly, that has been a massive, like, people have just completely lost sight of that.
I can hear you, the rest of the world hears you, and the people who knock these buildings down will hear all of us soon.